gets a lot of attention here in Silicon Valley, and specific technological niches of expertise gets a ton of focus. But I'm going to keep it really simple. Not even three things. We'll focus on two: agility and resilience. The path to success has very little respect for what you like to do, what you studied in school, and what you're good at, which in many cases, people embark on a career based on the illusion that that career will satisfy all three of those things. What you have to be able to do is to move your efforts, your focus, and even your enthusiasm to things that are vastly different than what you expected you'd encounter. And I think that's, in a nutshell, what I mean by agility. That when you're exhausted and demoralized and confused, that may well mean that you're on the verge of a change in perspective that will be the breakthrough that you need. Just that concept of press on regardless, I think, is of paramount importance. We have a generation right now in this challenging year 2020 that has spent a decade working during an unprecedented boom. Downturn of 2008 is a long time ago, and the tech downturn of 2000, 2001 is literally a generation ago. I've been around for a long while. I'm actually in my 60s, so I've seen 3 or 4 of these downturns. And you have to be able to keep up your enthusiasm, your energy, your focus, and your vision, even more so when the wheels come off of the external environment than when things are going well. Make sure that what you do brings success, impact, and even joy to students and teachers alike. It's kind of stunning when you look at the ed tech landscape, and especially the venture capital funded ed tech landscape, how many companies are built and succeed quite well that work on secondary aspects of the education ecosystem, things like grant funding and administration of various aspects of an educational institution, things that certainly make education run smoother, but that are almost in the background for the actual education experience of the student and the teacher. And we're exactly the opposite. We start with the objects that we think future technologists need to be laying hands on at age 8, and we focus deeply into that, and we build up to making the educator's job easy and fluid. And we start at what really is the focus, which is a dialogue, an interaction between student and teacher, and between student and teacher and engineered system that they're working with. Even though I'm a product designer and mechanical engineer, from my distant past, very similar background to Amy. And I've never been a teacher of any sort. I have no teaching credential. I've never even been a substitute teacher in a classroom. If there's one person I call at Piper more often than others, it would be Dr. Todd, our Chief Academic Officer. And this concept of always closing the loop with trusted educators, plural, is something you've got to be doing if you're thinking about an education technology company. Well, it's funny, there's the famous story about Steve Jobs and John Sculley walking along the hills of 280 by the Stanford Radio Telescope, and almost the apocryphal quote of, "Do you want to spend your life selling sugar water to kids, or do you want to make a dent in the world?" And Sculley, who was then the CEO of Pepsi and could have, retired at any time, sacrificing, one of the top corporate jobs in America for this, what was then, a very fast growing startup in order to make the dent in the world. And again, you want to come back to the people that prioritize the impact. The mission needs to come first. And, you talk about people that are expert in their areas. And what I would advise you to do, Silicon Valley and the Bay Area especially, it's an environment rife with people that are brilliant in their area. And you should certainly seek those people, but be willing to sacrifice a little bit of brilliance in their area for a copacetic ability to work smoothly and even in a delightful way with people in the different areas. If you could hire a software engineer that's a 99 on a scale of 100 with questionable or even unknown collaborative abilities versus somebody that's an 88 on a scale of 100 technically, but is known to be able to work fantastically well with sales, with UX designers, with marketing, always go for the collaborative skills over the deep domain expertise. Remember my point earlier about the important problems don't give a damn about what you're good at, what you studied in school, or what you like to do. Those three things are domain expertise. So, counterintuitively, the most brilliant people are not always the best people for a startup. The agility, the resilience, and that ability to bring a sense of delight to their collaboration. You want to hire the people that other people will love working with. I think the single most important lesson I've learned in my 40 some odd years in technology careers is that it always takes longer than you think. Time expands, stuff happens. You find opportunities, you get distracted. So always prepare your resources for things to take longer than you expected. And if I had to distill it down to an answer to the one question, that would be my advice for you. I guess the thing I'd like to really share with you in my closing remarks is that I speak to you from a fairly dark and dangerous time in America. The pandemic ravages the land. The skies over San Francisco have been science fiction movie dark for much of this week. My son in Seattle has had automatic weapons fire in his street downtown from civil unrest. Make sure that the startup you're embarking on, make sure that the system you're designing benefits the world and brings positive impact. And I implore you to prioritize that above any so-called exit. You want a climbing gym? You want a Lamborghini? That's very 2000. Focus on making the dent in the world and you'll be compensated wonderfully. If you focus on the exit and you squander your Series A and you just wallow in the cash, as we've seen happen in any number of startups historically, reality's never been kind to that. It rarely succeeds. And in the challenging times we face, it's a recipe for disaster. Put the mission first. Do good.